You don't compete with a force. You just get out the way. Your power's begging you to play. Begging you to play. Begging you to play.
Hello, everyone, and welcome to the very first episode of the Am-A-Lot podcast. I am your host, Amma Swiger. And I've been taking quite the break from podcasting. I had a very successful, very fun podcast that had some drama. I'm not going to get into that today, but I did take a break from having my own podcast. And I spent the last year being like, I'm gonna start another one. We're gonna get back into it. And I had this name. My name, I was born as Amanda, and I've never really loved my name all that much. It's, a lot of people say it doesn't suit me. My wife calls me anything other than Amanda, and I shout out to a podcast that I have loved for a very long time, We Can Do Hard Things, hosted by Glennon Doyle and Abby Wambach. Glennon has a sister whose name is Amanda, and Glennon named one of her daughters after her, and her name's Amanda, but they call her Amma. And when I heard this, I was like, that's my name. That feels so me. And so I was like, amazing. And I am, in fact, a lot. And I wish you were more of an a lot too. And so when that name kind of Am-A-Lot came to me, I was like, that's the podcast. That's the podcast. And yet I've been sitting on the name for quite a while. I've been sitting on the branding for it. And I'm going to be really honest with you guys. I felt like before I picked up a microphone and started this podcast, I needed to shed a lot of beliefs, that I needed to calibrate to a different sense of self, and that I needed to dive into where I wanted this next 5-10 years of my life and career to go, because I felt like I'd come up against a wall of, I've been really successful. I've built what so many people dream of building, and yet I don't know where I want to go from here. And so I'm not coming to you on this podcast telling you that I have completely figured that out, but I am in a different place now than I was 6-12 months ago. And I feel like there's so much I want to dive into. There's so much I want to tell you guys. There's so much I want to catch you up on. But I want to start with one very maybe simple sounding phrase, but it makes so much sense to me. And that's that I feel like in so many ways, when I think back to the Amanda who was, fresh out of college back in 2011, that started a photography company, who wanted to be an entrepreneur. When I think back to that version of me, I feel like I am lifetimes ahead of her. And yet in many ways, I also feel like I have returned to that same girl. And I want to talk about a lot of things that have to do with that in this episode today. I want to catch you up a little bit. I want to tell you about this podcast and where I see it going, and the kinds of conversations that I want to bring to it, the kinds of people I want to talk to on it, the kinds of solo episodes that you can expect. And so let's jump right in. If you heard the intro to this podcast, there is definitely the inspiration for so much of what has felt like an evolution the last 6 to 12 months. I feel like I've really been going through me coming back to a sense of who I was at a younger age with different eyes. When I think of the girl that started her photography company, like many of us when we start a business, right? We come to it from this place of, I want to do something. I have all this belief and excitement. I had gotten a camera. I was like, people could pay me money, more money that I was making being a social worker. And I could do this job that was really fun. I pretty quickly, from like getting a camera, became a wedding photographer. And if you've never been to a wedding, they're really fun. They also can have a lot of drama and a lot of heartache. And sometimes, joy walks alongside sorrow and grief. My own wedding was definitely one of those stories. And there was something about how deeply human a wedding was that I loved. And I had a beautiful wedding career. I've shot over 900 weddings since 2011. I retired from being a full-time wedding photographer last year. I have only 2 weddings this year. I have 1 next year. There's quite a few people. I know some of them listen to things that I put out there. And if you're listening to this, yes, I will still be shooting your wedding whenever it is that you one day get married. There are friends and family and couples who I've known for a really long time, or families whom I've done, 3, 4, and 5 weddings for the same family, who are like, you can't not shoot my, my final child's wedding. And I'm like, absolutely. I will happily always come out of retirement for those people. But my identity is no longer that of a wedding photographer. And back in 2023, I transitioned into teaching photographers. I'd had a boudoir studio. I ran my boudoir studio very differently than the industry taught. And I was like, I'm going to coach photographers. And I did that really successfully, made over 6 figures. My first year out the gate, which, in the coaching world sounds like a number, but to like anyone else, it's like, that's freaking impressive. I had, no idea what I was doing. I hired fantastic mentors, who, taught me things, who challenged me in things, who in some ways built cages for me. And I don't think that that was intentional. I just think that when you're selling somebody something, you come up with rules and frameworks, and sometimes those can feel more like cages than permission or methodologies. And so I've spent the last few years being a coach for photographers. I then closed that business and focused solely and going all in on creating content for entrepreneurs. I've had the honor of going to, 4 countries, which is insane. I got to go to Paris last year for my birthday and look at the Eiffel Tower and drink real champagne. It was magical. And I got to shoot clients in Paris. I've gotten to go to Mexico and Canada and all over the United States, shooting content for women who are wielding a kind of influence over industries, and who are changing the way women see what's possible for them. And that has been so exciting. So exciting. I just got back from Las Vegas for a few days and got to work with so many different kinds of women while I was there. One of whom was an influencer who's trying to get into the modeling world, to a woman who's in her 50s who's building an absolutely incredible brand around encouraging women to lean into what makes them different and that has maybe pushed them out into the side. Her brand is called Black Sheep, which is just chef's kiss, y'all. I got to work with a creative director, with somebody who does systems and helps women make their lives run with more ease. I got to work with an ice skater who is, dipping her toe into the world of expression and really creating a sense of self for her. And there was this theme that has just sort of emerged that I have tried for a long time to ignore, because I thought it made what I do sound frivolous. I thought it made me less important, which is dumb. And it's this idea that play is the highest expression of power. And by play, I don't mean being silly and giggly and ha ha ha, but have you ever watched a child play? Have you ever watched a kid fully engulfed in a world of make-believe? There is a raw honesty to it. They believe that they are the Cookie Monster or a princess. They give themselves so fully to that. And therefore it feels like power. It looks like power. It functions like power. They get to create a world that they and anyone else that they are playing with step into. And I truly believe that entrepreneurs, people, women, we have lost the art of power. And in that, we have lost the art of play. And I want to talk to you a little bit about why this idea of power and play really butted up against something that is, not true. And also kind of take you guys a little bit on part of this journey. And in order for us to get there, we're going to have to talk about astrology. And if you're like, eye roll, I hear you. Astrology's never been my thing. To be honest, I'm not somebody who's into like the Enneagram, the personality types, human design. I've always rolled my eyes at it a little bit. I think the people who are like super duper into it can kind of annoy me. Whenever I meet somebody and they're like, one of their first questions for you is like, what astrological sign are you? I'm like, we're not going to be friends. And I'm not saying that's a good trait to have, but that's who I've been. I've never really enjoyed that. And it's because I personally am one of those people that if I tell you something about myself that I didn't get to decide, AKA what human design type I am, or personality type, or astrological sign, you then are going to be making assumptions about me through that filter. And I fucking hate it. Don't like it. And part of the reason for that is because I am a Pisces. When people meet me and they are like, oh my God, what's your sign? They always try to guess. They're never right. I've never had somebody guess that I'm a Pisces. And one of the first things people say to me is, oh my gosh, yeah, you're so whimsical. You're so creative. I've heard that phrase, quote, you're whimsical and creative, like, oh my gosh, so many freaking times. And like, it's this like, always this like, of course you're a Pisces. You're so like whimsical. You're so creative. And I'm like, I would not self-describe myself as being somebody who is full of whimsy. It's not that I dislike whimsy. I think it's fun. But like the connotation of a Pisces as the world sees it is not something that I would prescribe to Emma. So much so that for a really long time I was like, is my birth date wrong? Like, are the stars messed up? This whole thing must be a crock of shit, because I was like, it just isn't, like, I don't like it. So I to be fair, only thing I knew was about your sun sign. I knew nothing about astrology. And then I met some fantastic people. Last fall, I was a part of a retreat that my fantastic coach, Katie Stewart, hosted in the beautiful Blue Ridge Mountains. And I was well out of my depth. This was like a witchy, very spiritual woo retreat. Beautiful souls attended this. Oh my gosh, I freaking love these women so much. And one of them is one of Katie's clients and now a friend of mine, Sarah. Sarah is the version of astrology that I have fallen in love with. And if you're somebody that's like, I want to dip my toe into the world of astrology, but from like a really grounded, just whole place, might I suggest her Instagram? It's Artemis Aligned. I will do my best to link her in the show notes. I also will give a shout out to Katie, who has slowly gotten me into astrology and more woo things. She's the Katie Stewart on Instagram. And I don't know if this was intentional or unintentional. I think it's probably a little bit intentional on Katie's part, but they butted up against my beliefs around astrology, who I am, how I see myself, how I talk about myself, and really, without trying aggressively, made me re-examine things about how I talk about Emma. So let me give you a quick primer for anyone who is new to me. I grew up in a very conservative Christian household. I went to a Bible college. I spent 4 years learning and dissecting Christianity, the Bible, all of that. So to say astrology is pretty far from the world that I've operated in would be probably the truest sentence there ever was. So it's not something that I have had a lot of comfortability with. It's not something I grew up with. And to be transparent, I'm a little bit gun shy about anything that sort of comes across like religion to me. And sometimes I find that people that are very into things like astrology and human design or the Enneagram sometimes treat it a little bit like religion. Sorry, not sorry. I have so many examples of this. I won't get into them. But it's like there are these hard and fast rules and you have to fit into certain boxes. And I'm like, no, I broke up with Christianity. I broke up with religion. I don't know, like 12, 13 years ago. I still fuck with Jesus. I think Jesus is a really cool man. But like the whole modern American Christianity, not for me. So also no thank you to anything that also feels like religion. And maybe that's a podcast for a different day, because I have a lot of thoughts on that. But basically anybody that I would meet that was into astrology, I was always like, no, thank you. Gross. Don't want that. And I'm going to sit here and be very, I'll call my own shit. That's not necessarily great. There are tons of beautiful people that love astrology, and I no longer hold that belief to be true. But when I spent these few days at this beautiful house in the Blue Ridge Mountains in Virginia, I started to look at things a little bit differently. That was like the tipping point for me in some of how I view myself. And let me paint the picture for you. We've got 7 women, all but me, who are self-proclaimed witchy, spiritual, woo-woo women in this beautiful house in Virginia for 3 days. And so, of course, naturally, the topic of astrology came up. And there were just these little things that got said. Now, I'm going to give you, if you're listening to this and you're like me, who is like, I have no understanding of astrology, I'm going to tell you a little bit of what I have learned about some of this. I am in no way a fucking expert. Please do not hear that. Please do not think that of me. But in order for this story to make sense, I think that I need to explain a little bit around my own astrological chart, and my understanding of it. So, there are 3 key placements that most people, when they talk about astrology, talk about. They call them your quote-unquote big 3. Weird, but whatever. They're your sun, your moon, and your rising sign. So I am a Pisces sun, an Aquarius moon, and a Leo rising. The Leo rising is definitely more how I see myself. It is the sign in my astrological chart that I lean on quite heavy. I'm sure there are astrology people out there that'd be like, Rah! About that, but I like the Leo side. Some of the Aquarius stuff definitely can see in me. The Pisces though, not so fucking much. Do not like Pisces energy. Don't like the assumptions that are made around it. And here's the fun part, guys. I have a lot of Pisces placements in my chart. So beyond those 3, you have, I don't know, quite a list of other placements. You have like Venus and Chiron and all these other things. And again, I am not an expert in any of this, but like there are tons of placements. And I have a Pisces stellium, which means that I have multiple placements in the same sign. I believe it's 3 or more. Again, not an expert. Somebody can fact check me on that. And I also have a Capricorn stellium. I believe I have 4 placements in Pisces and 3 in Capricorn, or it's the other way around. I'm not totally, again, this is not my wheelhouse. Sounds fun and fancy though, right? So I can't escape all this Piscean energy. And I'm going to just, while I'm recording this, I'm going to pull up just what a typical Pisces is, because I want you to understand, again, I have a ton of this in my chart. This is when I'm up against these conversations with my own coach, with people that I am learning to really love, people that I'm becoming more open-minded around listening to. So Pisces are naturally in tune to the emotions of others. They're incredibly giving. They're often putting the needs of family and friends and strangers before their own. Sidebar, definitely would say that's true of me. But I would say that when I think of the things I don't like about myself, it's all of that. I wish that I was a little less giving and a little less in tune with the needs of other people, because I often am not in tune with my own, which might explain why I don't really like all the Pisces energy in my world. They are quote unquote endowed, Pisces are endowed with a rich inner world. They often excel in creative fields like music, poetry, and the visual arts. They are the dreamers of the zodiac. They are highly perceptive. They are accepting, tolerant, non-judgmental. They go with the flow. They easily adjust to changing circumstances. They absorb the emotions of everyone around them. They can burn out and struggle to say no. They desire to avoid conflict. They can be indecisive. Okay. And they are often seen as a little bit more whimsical, creative. Floaty is a word I also hear often described when people have said, oh, you're a Pisces. They're like floaty. And I'm like, ugh, gross. Here's what I want you to hear from all of this, okay? All of the things that this worldview, aka astrology, was saying that I am, was highlighting parts of myself that I don't enjoy. When I think of the last decade of my life, I guess we're almost to 15 years now of being an entrepreneur, but more specifically since 2020, like the last 6 years, when I think about that season of my life, every hardship that I have experienced could be linked back to the traits of a Pisces. And you know what we as humans don't love? Having a mirror held up to us to highlight things that we want to ignore. So here I am. I'm in this beautiful retreat. I'm meeting these wonderful, incredible, compassionate, wise, so wise women. And I'm feeling this like tug to start understanding astrology more. I have a conversation with Katie about it. I ended up booking at the beginning of this year a beautiful chart reading with Sarah, where we dove into my chart, and it started to make me think about all of this differently. And what I took from this, and again, these are how I interpreted this. This is how Amma looks at all of this. And I am not needing you to validate it because I really don't care what you think. But I'm hoping that in me sharing this, maybe it makes somebody else spark something for them. When I started sitting with the resistance that was coming up around this, just so much Pisces, so much Pisces, so much Pisces, I realized that the part of this that I didn't like, that naturally in tune with the emotions of others, often putting people above themselves. The pull, if you don't know anything about the zodiac, the Pisces is symbolized by two fish swimming in opposite directions. And the way a lot of people see it is that Pisces are pulled between like the reality of the material world and then like their desire to escape into like transcendent or like mystical or idealized worlds. That's not my version of this. For me, I think it was this desire to be of service to people, to be a good person, to care for the needs of others, to be seen by other people that way, and also to have my own sense of sovereignty and personal power. And as that visual sort of started to play out in my mind, it was around that time, these words crept across my mind. And maybe at some point I'll have Katie on here and we can dive into a little bit of how this all happened. But I had the words, "You don't compete with a force," go across my mind. And then a couple weeks later, I said out loud to Jordan while discussing my work, "Your power is begging you to play." And it was this like instantaneous, my job is not to decide between the two fish swimming in opposite directions. This desire to do well in the world, to do good in the world, to change people, to help people, to love the creative and the expressive, to find meaning in helping other people and changing the way in which the world operates for the better, to love creativity, to see creativity as a way to better humanity, that I could exist with that. And also that my own sense of sovereignty, personal power, my own voice, my own way of thinking about things, that it is just as powerful, that I am me and that I am responsible to no one and for no one, that those seemingly opposite things are the essence of Amma, and that for me, my power is found in the ability to play between those two things, to be able to play between this idea of creativity and wanting to do good in the world, and also to play within my own sovereignty and personal power. And oh my gosh, it instantaneously changed the way I saw myself. It also changed the way I look at my clients. I don't think it's a secret. I have worked with some wildly powerful and influential women in this iteration of my career. I've worked with women who are quite literally changing the way in which industries work. I have clients who are making multi-millions a year. I have a past client who at one point was making over $1 million a month. I have people that have forged their own methodology that has now become like not just completely integrated into the coaching world. I have other clients who have reinvented themselves 12 times and are still 7-figure business owners year over year over year. I have just incredible clients. And there was this realization that the ideal client for me was somebody that actually desires to do good. Another little fun fact about me, I have been obsessed with Wicked since it came out, the musical. My childhood bedroom has Wicked quotes painted all over it that my childhood best friends and I painted on the walls with permission of my mother, of course. We have a 96-pound Newfoundland poodle whose name is Elphaba. If you're like, what the fuck is Elphaba? Elphaba is the green witch from Wicked. She is seen as wicked because she is different. And the very last song in the musical Wicked is called For Good. And the lyric is, I don't know if I've been changed for the better, but I've been changed for good. And ever since I heard that lyric, there has always been this desire for me to change people, not only for the better, but also for good. And by for good, we mean permanently. Like that there is a difference of a person than who they were prior to experiencing their time with me. This was how I operated as a wedding photographer. It is what I believe into my bones made me so good at that job. It's what made me so good as a boudoir photographer, because I didn't just want to do a good job. I didn't just want to deliver nice wedding photos or pretty boudoir images. I wanted them to have fundamentally shifted who they saw themselves as, how they saw their own world, what they believed was possible for themselves. Obviously, the answer changed a little bit, but I wanted in some capacity to change them for good. I wanted to have it be more than photos. And I was like, we're not crying on the first episode of this podcast, but here we are. When I look back at that 900 plus wedding career, I can think of so many instances where I know in my soul that I changed people for good. And I could sit here and name names to you. And if they were to listen to this podcast, I know in my soul that they would say, yes, I have been changed for the better and for good because I knew you, because you saw me, because you captured a tiny slice of my life. And I'm not going to sugarcoat this. When I stepped into the coaching world, I was like, forget that. I was like, I was so attracted to the shiny. Thank God for Katie Stewart. She has been a constant for me since 2023. She has just been a light in my life. I've worked with her kind of from the very beginning, and she is not shiny. Well, I don't want to say that because she is one of the shiniest people I know, but she's not someone who chases shiny. And I don't know how it happened. There wasn't one moment, but it was just this snowball where I woke up at the beginning of this year, sometime in January, and just looked at my life and I was like, oh shit, I've lost why I started this in the first place, why I wanted to be an entrepreneur. And I won't lie. There have been a lot of times in the last 6 months where I have been like, okay, it is time to hang up the camera. It is time to go get a different job. It's maybe time to go back to school or work for somebody else. And of course, that's not actually the right answer. Let's be so for real. I am wildly talented. I am excellent at my job. But I got to a point where I lost the very thing that 23, 22-year-old Amanda, fresh out of college, working as a social worker, I forgot the thing that she held as being the point of it all. To see people, to celebrate people, to change people for good, to have my own sovereignty, to make my own rules, to be my own boss, to run my business and my company the way I wanted to do it, all with no education, no skill set. I was never formally trained as a photographer. And yet here I am, that I have generated since 2011 in this iteration of my life from photography alone, not the coaching industry, not any other brand I've ever done. I have generated in just photography. I think it's like it's almost over, it's a little over $1.5 million. That's crazy. That's crazy. That's crazy. And yet I was like, it's not enough. I saw everyone talking about reoccurring revenue, which is a huge thing in the online world, like monthly reoccurring revenue, meaning like every month you have people on some form of retainers, or you have a group program or an offer where people are constantly building new things, where they can, have people coming in, whether it's a mastermind or whatever. There's nothing wrong with that. But I got tied up in this like, oh, my business should have that. When the reality is like, I've had in just the last year alone, I had a month where I made like $1,800, and I've had a month where I've made like $63,000, $70,000 in cash. Like there is no, and I was like, oh, I'm bad. I'm wrong. I gave away that sense of sovereignty. I gave away that sense of puffed chest. I've got it. When I think of the girl that started all of this, she wouldn't have cared if she had reoccurring revenue. She was just so freaking lit up about the fact that she could create something. Everything that I did to build my career up until 2023 was me chasing my own joy, me chasing my own sense of fun. I played as much as I worked. I could give you a dozen examples of this, but one of my favorites was the pandemic. Obviously was a hard time for everybody. 2020 meant that I went from having dozens and dozens and dozens of weddings on the books to nothing overnight. And by the time I had crawled myself out of that, I was like, well, shit, I'm now a little depressed. Weddings were a little bit harder to book because everyone was kind of like, should we plan a wedding in 2021? And so I had this vision of these rainbow ostrich feather wings. And I was like, you know what I'm going to do? I'm going to buy them. They were like $1,800 from like a custom shop on Etsy. I had them in the rainbow flag. Newsflash, if you're new here, I'm gay. And a lot of my wedding clientele was LGBTQ, and I called it Queers Rising. And so what I did was I did free photo shoots all over the city of Philadelphia where we lived at the time. And you got to, for, 2-3 minutes, put on these gorgeous rainbow wings that were like, literally, they went to the ground. They had a train to them. They were iconic. And I asked you, after I took some pictures of you for free, and then I asked you, what does resilience and rising look like for you? And I photographed like 120 something, 100, it was years ago now. I don't remember. It was over 100 people in these beautiful wings for free. And I can tie hundreds of thousands of dollars back to that for 2021, 2022, and 2023, and I guess even 2024 of weddings. It was for me. It was for my own sense of self. The fact that I was like, I want to photograph 100 people in a set of wings for the fucking fun of it, because I can. Do you know how many people were like, you should be charging for this? I mean, I could have, that wouldn't have been wrong, but I did it because I wanted to, because there was this sense of power in it. And also because I wanted to tell stories. It's those two fish swimming in different directions. I did it for me, for my own power. And I did it for the betterment of other people. And I could give you dozens of stories of this, the way in which I have always been both. But I didn't want people to see me as quote a Pisces. And when I heard this little phrase in my mind of your power is begging you to play, it was this invitation almost from my soul, from a younger version of myself. I know so often in like the spirituality and self-help environment, we talk about your highest self, right? This fully evolved version of you. And I love fully evolved Emma. She's really cool. I have a very distinct vision of her. She's weirdly not that old. She's always on a front porch. She always has a dog at her feet. She's always working on her phone, which is interesting to me because that's not the world. That's not how I work now. I work with a camera in my hand. I'm always talking in my vision of this highest version of me. And I love her. I don't know if that's actually my highest version. I don't know. That's a version I've had for years of myself. But the vision that moves me the most forward is not her. It is 2011, 2012. Terrified and wide awake Emma. College was really hard for me. My adolescence was hard. In case we missed it, conservative upbringing. I'm gay. Went to a Bible college. Not great. There was a lot of evolving and choosing myself that I had to go through up until the point I met my wife. I always say that the very first time I feel like that I fully and completely chose my own vision for my life, I was standing behind a tree waiting to walk down an aisle with balloons in hand that I let go of. I know the environment people don't come for me. I didn't know at the time, okay? But I let go a balloon for every year of my life up until that point, and as a symbolism to myself that I was letting go of everything and that I myself was walking towards a future that I had chosen. And again, future episodes, maybe I'll bring Jordan on here. Y'all will enjoy her a lot. I love that woman more than anything on this planet. I will choose her over and over and over again, regardless of how hard our life has been for the last 12 and a half years that we've been together. But choosing her was really choosing myself and choosing that I wanted my own life to be the way I wanted my life to be. It was choosing the power of love. It was choosing me. And we have had the best 12 and a half years. But when I think back to the girl that chose her, when I think back to the girl that started a photography business with no business experience, no photography experience, just sheer determination and a hard life that had that should have made me believe that I couldn't do these things that I'd set myself out to. Like when I think back to her, she is the life force that is still driving the ship. She is still the power underneath this 37-year-old recording this podcast. I adore her because she understood her own power, her power of choice, her ability, that she could do anything that she set her mind to. And she also understood that she was put on this planet to do good. And I feel like I'm returning back to her with more wisdom, more experience. My God, a better sense of editing and shooting. Because let me tell you, that girl was not a talented photographer, but you know what she had that I lost? for the last few years, a tenacity that I could do anything. And she was so powerful, like so powerful, and she didn't see it, but I can see it now in hindsight. And as I am returning back to this, like, okay, what would I want to do? What is the craziest version of my career that brings me such fucking joy? And it's this idea that powerful women just need places to play. And I don't mean play as in like, play with arts and crafts, but maybe. I mean, what was the thing that was underneath why boudoir meant so much to so many women? Sure, it's the lingerie and feeling sexy, but it was the being able to spend a few dedicated hours sitting inside of an identity that they want to explore. Oftentimes my boudoir clients were like, oh, I'm a nurse. I'm in scrubs all day. I don't get dressed up. And then you'd throw this like fur trimmed to the floor dressing gown robe thing on them. And it's like a whole other woman would come out. And it was like they were twirling. And like I could give you so many stories of this. And it sure, play sounds like this like sweet, cute little thing. And I'm like, no, I think it's the most powerful thing that we can do. Because to me, play is just another word for presence. To be so fully present in an idea, to be so fully present in a moment, to give yourself over to that experience of just being, of being human, of climbing on top of a car at a junkyard because it feels fucking powerful, or twirling around in a robe, or whatever it is that feels alive and exciting to you. If you are a business owner, I think that bottled up is far more powerful on the internet than the right words ever will be. Because we don't scroll social media and go, that person looks like they're going to say the right thing. We don't read things first. We see it first. And when you see somebody that is so alive in themselves, in a moment, in an experience, in their power, you pay attention because you're like, who the fuck is that? Even if you don't know them, there is something to that. And we, I think as a society, don't want that, because that would mean we'd live in a world where people who are often underestimated are the ones at the top. We don't want to play. We don't want to be present. We want to control our way to getting the right result, to knowing, like, just tell me what to say. The amount of times I've heard this in masterminds I've been a part of, in conversations that I've been a part of, where it's like, yeah, I just wish somebody would tell me the right thing to say so people buy. And it's like, no. Are you being the person that people need to buy from? Are you being the person that you're meant to be? Are you actually like, oh, why don't people see me as leader? Or are you actually leading? And like, I say all of this because it has hit me in my own face. I have not been being the leader that I know that I can be because I didn't want to rock the boat. I wanted people to perceive me as being powerful. So I was like, oh, I got to wear a suit. I've got to shoot this kind of content because this is what people want. Oh, the industry changes. Oh, the algorithm shifted. Now I've got to do this kind of content. And it's like, no. The content doesn't matter. The way you look doesn't matter. It is how you are willing to play inside of your own power and how full out you're willing to go in that. I believe that with every bone of my body. And I think that the inside little girl that is so deeply powerful, who has not been conditioned and influenced by the world we live in, that version of you who just believes that she can do anything, she is begging you to play. And this is now my brand. This is now my world. This is the place I see myself living in for a long time. I am so freaking excited to be rolling out new ways for people to come and play with me, for people to have experiences of their own power, to also witness the power of other women, because my God, does that change you? When I think about that retreat I did, I was there to work. There was no one moment that was like, oh my God, that was it. No, it was just witnessing other people fully expressed in who they were, who were getting out of their comfort zone, who were having hard conversations. One of the women, she just had this energy about her where I was like, I want to put her, I have this like long green robe. And there was this stick that I believe one of my favorite clients, Helene, had like freaking picked up from the woods somewhere. And she was holding it like a staff. And I was like, you got to put this freaking robe on. And then I was like, wait. Katie had brought a sword to the retreat. And I was like, oh, okay, we're going to give her a sword. We're going to put her in this robe. And then I had another person like throw the train of the robe. And it's this photo that encapsulated this powerful, I protect the family, a la Taylor Swift, if you will, energy that had been living inside this woman. And when she saw the photo, she was unwell. And it wasn't because, the photo, if you were to show it to a group of photographers, they'd be like, it's not that impressive. It's an okay photo. It doesn't matter. It's the expression of power. It was the her ability to be fully present in that moment and to just, I'm sure she thought we were a little nuts. Like, here's a sword, here's a stick, here's a green robe that you'd never frickin' wear. But when she gave herself over to that experience, magic was made. And I want to bring that magic to everyone. And since I can't possibly put us all in a beautiful, magical house in the woods of Virginia together, I'm going to bring people on this podcast where I can have conversations around power, around presence, around what it looks like for them to be a force in their own life, their industry, the people that they are working with, what it means to them to change people, not just for better, but for good. I want to bring so many of the conversations that I have behind the scenes when a client is changing in between outfits at photo shoots. I want to bring them to you guys because let me tell you something. I have gotten to see some of the worst of humanity in my life. And I've also been blessed to see some of the best of it. And the best of humanity really doesn't erase the damage done by the worst. Far be it from me to say that. The damages can be very real. It can really, people can really hurt people. And one of my favorite phrases is hurt people. And oftentimes the ones that hurt us the most are the ones who are so deeply hurting themselves. Not that it excuses it, but it's true. But on the flip side, there are so many deeply wise, creative, brilliant, smart, insane women that I have the pleasure of knowing and who I want to bring to this podcast. Because when I think of all of them, they are also in their own way a lot. They are also all forces of absolute conviction, and they are all women who know how to play in their power. So welcome to the new podcast, Am a Lot. I'm your host. And may you have a life filled with being a lot, too.
Begging you to play, begging you to play,